Davidson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Having met with the Prime Minister of Lower Saxony this morning, I too would like to wish the First Minister well for their discussions later on today, and to ask the First Minister when he will next meet the Secretary of State for Scotland.
First Minister.
No plans, near future.
Davidson.
This week we saw a British aid worker rescued in Afghanistan in a textbook raid by UK Special Forces. The daily work of our security forces at home is to look after our people and our assets. The First Minister has repeatedly staked the economic stability of a separate Scotland on North Sea oil and gas. These assets are currently protected by the full range of the British security services, including Marines, Special Forces and the intelligence community. The SNP's own defence spokesman, Angus Robertson, has conceded that it would be imperative to ensure that our oil and gas fields are adequately protected. So, with Angus Robertson identifying the need, has Alex Salmond come up with the plan? Will a separate Scotland have its own special forces?
First Minister.
Independent Scotland will have the range of forces required to establish the security of the country. But can I say to Ruth Davidson, there is actually a working example, is there not, of a small European nation which actually has marginally more resources in the North Sea than Scotland would have. Marginally more, but still very, very, very substantial. And that, of course, is the country of Norway. Now, I've never heard it suggested that in any way Norwegian oil installations are somehow at risk because they are being protected and supervised by Norwegian forces. Is she seriously arguing that an independent Scotland can provide the same security over our oil and gas assets that Norway does over its oil and gas assets? Of course, there would be one big difference. In an independent Scotland, the revenue in which to pay for the range of public services, including our security forces, would come to Scotland, as opposed to disappearing into the maw of the Tory Treasury in London.
As he raises the point of Norway, I'm sure the First Minister would want to join with me in welcoming the Prime Minister's announcement of an energy partnership with Norway this morning, which will see multi-billion-pound investment in the North Sea. But he somewhat misses the point, because while a former SAS Deputy Commander, Clive Fairweather, has stated that Special Force expertise is vital in looking after our oil and gas assets, and it would take years for Scotland to build such a regiment and cost tens of millions of pounds, the First Minister's own fag packet blueprint for defence, unveiled in January, had one naval base, one air base and one army brigade. And Special Forces was conspicuous only by its absence. Norway has the Special Forces. I'm asking if Scotland would have the same. Because we did not hear a cheep about Special Forces, nor a Scottish MI5, nor a Scottish MI6, nor GCHQ monitoring. We know from a few moments ago that the First Minister is happy to rely on the Bank of England to be the lender of last resort. But is he content on having what would then be the Special Forces of another country being Scotland's defence of last resort too?
First Minister.
The first thing I said in answer to the last question was yes, we'd have the range of forces required to protect the Scottish assets. Now, it's interesting the Prime Minister is in Norway today. I can absolutely tell Ruth Davidson that one thing the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom will not do in Norway today is suggest that in any way, shape or form the Norwegian government is incapable of protecting Norwegian oil and gas in the North Sea. And isn't it extraordinary that the unionist parties in Scotland, Tory and Labour, are willing to praise and say how well these small independent European countries are doing, managing their assets, signing agreements with them, lauding with them of praise, except when it comes to the small European nation of Scotland, which somehow, according to the Conservative Party, is incapable of doing things that other countries take for granted. In terms of the security of this realm, the reason that we have one Air Force base and one naval base is that the Conservative Party and the Labour Party before it closed all the rest. In terms of our armed forces, and then of course the continuing threat to the integrity of the Scottish regimental tradition, reported in the papers today, should make every Conservative in this Parliament hang their heads in shame. And finally, on the basis of security that we are charged with at the present moment, Let's look at the record numbers of police in Scotland, the standing ovation to the Justice Secretary and the Police Federation, the huge decline in police numbers in England and Wales, and the slow handclap to the Home Secretary of the English Police Federation. Another reason for the Conservative Party to hang their heads in shame.